Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. I want to start out today with John Winnick, CEO, Clark Street Capital. John is doing a great program next week. He has the former chair of the FDIC, and he's calling it a Global Financial Crisis 2.0. It's a free webinar. John, fill us in.
Yes. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. I've noticed there's been a lot of webinars lately. I've watched CNN had a panel, and no one on the panel knew anything about banking, which I thought was curious. So this will be a great opportunity to hear from four experts, all of whom are banking experts. We got Bill Isaac, who was the FDIC chair in the early 80s, dealt with the first banking crisis, now a consultant. We have Chris Marinac, who is the dean of the regional bank analyst for Janney, heads up research there. And then we have Jason Kuyama, who's a regulatory attorney for Godfrey & Kahn, and myself, who you all know. So looking forward to it. It's a free webinar, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday of next week.
John, give us a one takeaway from all this mess that we should be aware of. What's your one takeaway of what's going on? One.
I guess my one takeaway is it was always the loan portfolio where banks would have problems and make mistakes. The securities portfolio was always viewed as ultra safe, and no one ever takes any losses because they buy investment grade bonds. And it just turns out that that's where all the losses were. So
that's what brought down the bank.
Pay attention to your entire balance sheet.
Yeah. Great. Well, John, we'll look forward to hosting that for you on Wednesday. As I said, it's courtesy of John and Clark Street Capital. It looks like a great lineup, and sign up. And John, thank you for doing this for our people. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bob, for having me on.
All right. Thanks for stopping by. Well, very good. Let's turn to Lance, America West. And Lance, you were in the room with Mr. Miller, and what did we learn?
Well, the America West Conference was a great conference. On day one, Bob, we did A to Z SBA participant lender training. A lot of great banks on the West Coast and in Utah and Nevada attended. But day two, we had headquarters in the house, and John Miller, first time I've seen John at a conference in years. And it was great to be able to visit with John. He gave us an update on SBA lending performance through February. Bob, you'll laugh about this. Delaney started getting rapid fire text messages from me of John's slides during the middle of the presentation because all his numbers were through February 28 of 2023. And I mean, the great thing is SBA lending in the 7A program is back to levels it was at pre-pandemic. In fact, there have been several good years of SBA lending. And John, I got tickled. Joe was sitting nearby, and a couple of John's slides had a few glitches on the graphs, and John was very funny when he was talking about it. He said, the SBA messed the graph up, but look over here, this is where it's at. But anyway, it was a great presentation. It certainly was great to see John Miller, who used to be my old boss, Bob, Joe, and Delaney, and it was great to have an opportunity. The other thing is there were several SBA headquarters folks. Eddie Ledford is always so great to come to the Mixer events and just sit at a table and talk with participant lenders. And, if you've not been to a regional lending conference, you should go because, I got tickled. We had, Bob, a brand new SBA lender from the West Coast in our training. And then, and we told them there'll be headquarters people here for you to talk to. And when I came to the Mixer event in the evening, one of our participants was over sitting at a table with Eddie Ledford and just sitting there interacting, talking about SBA lending. It was such a great thing. So a great lending conference.
Yeah, absolutely. And the regional people were there. Was able to do an interview with Ron Galletti with the Inland Empire Orange County office, which is larger than I think 5 other states. So that was.
Hey, Bob, one of my big takeaways is the regional SBA administrator on the West Coast. That has to be a great job, Bob. She covers Hawaii, California, Guam. I'm like,
well,
guys,
I don't know.
What
Maybe
incredibly great travel.
what is it, Region 2 or Region 3, where they get the Virgin Islands and St. John's? I think that Puerto Rico. That's up there as well. But can't argue with Region 9. Well, very good. Lance, your one takeaway from Mr. Miller's presentation.
Well, I think John, he did talk a little bit about some of the changes, and so did others from SBA coming up in the SOP. And Bob, I have no more clarity on the release of the SOP than I did before I walked in. But what we've talked about is they're considering all the comments that were submitted as a result of the proposed rule changes. And they're looking at incorporating those into the SOP. And apparently there was a very robust level of comments. But the one thing, Bob, we did get an indication in the presentation that the unsecured SBA lending number is going to move from 25,000 to 50. That was something that I heard multiple times that I think is something we can depend on. We did certain SOP 5010 is going to be released, respectful of the thoughts of participant bankers.
What about the $350,000 level? Is that going to be bumped up?
Did not hear it. Joe, did you pick up any?
She talks about Mid-America. She talks about America East. And my team manager is very patriotic, so it was easy today.
We'll have to show your other jerseys some other time.
Yeah.
Joseph,
it's the granddaddy of all conferences. There'll be a huge number of people there. I'll be there doing a breakout session and a training for new SBA participant lenders, but guys are cornered. Just,
loans and guiding them on how to file them, what was necessary in the applications, and he would help provide fabricated information for these loans. They applied for more than 90, trying to get over 25 million. And then not only that, after they received the loans, he would get a kickback, but he would also apparently help them launder the loan proceeds so that it wouldn't show up
it's a full
or be
service
detected for fraud.
I love it. How much
Ultimately
do we know? I'm sorry, go ahead, Delaney. Go ahead.
It ultimately caused 15 million in losses, and so far they've only recovered less than $1 million.
Oh, good
in
launder.
10 years. 10 years, a pretty good sentence there.
Well, I think part of that sentence, guys, is he is a banker, and he abused the system. I've told this story before. I have a Schedule C. Technically, I have a small business. I could have applied, but there's no way in the world I would have ever considered applying myself because I work in the banking industry. So,
you would have had a big target on your back, yeah.
Yeah, for a banker to be the one who promoted fraudulent applications, it's a bad thing. That's probably why the length is so long.
How much did he pocket? Do we know, Delaney? Did the feds tell us that? I didn't see that.
It did not give us a grand total. It said he would take about 10 to 15% of the loan proceeds as a kickback. So I assume it's a pretty comfortable amount.
Well, Mr. Hernandez obviously did not read the PPP rules and guidelines in the CFRs and the releases because no one was supposed to earn a fee from the borrower on a PPP loan.
I want to talk about this next case. It's all over the news. Wells Fargo, Carrie Tolstead, she pled guilty. She's going to go to jail. Delaney, do we know how long she's going to be in jail? Or prison? I guess she's going to prison.
No, it did not say anything about what they agreed to. I'm sure that'll be worked out later.
But this is important. This is important. That she was found guilty for failing to disclose information, obstructing an examination, and she was aware of stuff and she didn't talk about it. She did not pocket a dime. But when your partner is the government and they have things called prisons and they have people who hold guns, you need to be aware of who your partner is, Lance. And she's, forget the civil penalties, she'll never be able to pay. She's banned from the banking industry. She had a very high profile job and they went after her.
Well, it's a challenge because in most of these cases, like these two stories, Bob Delaney and Joe, I think the problem is they have a career in banking. They have a job that helps pay their bills, and they're willing to commit these types of acts and lose the opportunity for many years, for the rest of her career. She won't be able to work in banking.
Yeah, and it's a financial death penalty. That civil penalty is going to hang over her, and she's got pressure from her bosses and her board to do this, and she's the one who they were told her what to do, and she executed it, and she's paying the price. So, everyone out there, understand your role, understand who your partner is, and do the right thing, Lance. And that's hard to. Sometimes you have to, it's hard to understand what's the right thing, but you need to take a step back and say, okay, what's going on here?
Absolutely, Bob. And I think one of the keys in all of the fraud investigations is, if you know, then you need to wave your hand and say, hey, this is bad. This is a problem.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that in the underwriting course, Bob, how the underwriter, if there's something that's not according to the SOP, you need to raise your hand in the room and say, this is not right.
Yeah, and find the solution. That doesn't mean for you to be the obstructionist and just go no, be the Dr. No of your organization, but to understand the risk. We're all in the business of managing risk. Understand the risk and say, okay, what's really going on, and is this legit? We're not talking about one-offs. One-offs are legitimate mistakes, but this is a continuing pattern of misconduct that they go after. So.
Absolutely.
I think I could say don't be afraid of a one-off, but if it's a continuing pattern, you got issues.
Absolutely.
What's your third story, Delaney?
You know what? This one, I'm going to start off with your favorite part. I'm going to list off some of these.
What do we got?
Some of these purchases, one of which includes a 6-bedroom, 6-bathroom vacation rental home with a pool and a hot tub, just 3 miles away from Walt Disney World, along with quite a few nice cars. There was a Mercedes-Benz, a Tesla X, 2 other ones, along with $300,000 in his bank accounts. They were all at least filed for forfeiture or have already been seized.
Yeah, they're gone. That's gone. He'll never see that again, obviously.
Well, Jose had a Tesla, and he had to have the $300,000 in the bank in case he had an accident and damaged the battery in the Tesla. I read a story the other day talking about a Tesla owner who had a fender bender, and it damaged the battery in the insurance company. And it was like a standard. I saw a picture, a standard fender bender, and they totaled the vehicle because they were going to have to replace the battery.
Yeah. And so how much money did he end up getting?
So he obtained $1.7 million in PPP proceeds. He had a couple other fraud charges around here, cashing $900,000 in fake checks and obtaining $2 million in fraudulent tax refunds. One of these businesses was a tax business. So part of his issues when he was getting PPP loans is, for one, the 3 companies he applied for either did not exist or were already dissolved by the date they needed to be operating for eligibility. And he also had some previous charges with bringing 2 stolen luxury vehicles into a different state and 9 different charges related to credit card and identity theft. So he was very not eligible. Allegedly. Sorry, I should probably have started with that. This is all alleged.
I want to know what the deal is with the Walt Disney World houses that we keep seeing. This is about the third time somebody's bought a big house by Disney.
I've noticed that as well.
Well, yeah, if you're on the property, you get all the special treatment, and you don't even have you call them up, and they take your grandkids or kids around them, and you don't have to do any work. Very good. Lance, what are we talking about next week?
Well, we've got a great webinar, and the response has been incredible. So please jump in and sign up. We're going to talk about some challenging servicing actions. Dealing with release of collateral, not just the unilateral release of collateral, but what do you do if you have that pesky junior mortgage on your SBA loan as additional collateral, and they come to you and say, we want you to release so we can refinance. So we're going to deal with release of collateral, release of guarantors, and we're going to bring up an old favorite of mine that we haven't really talked about in a long time, but I think it's going to be very relevant, the offer and compromise.
Very good. Very good. By the way, John's webinar is going to be, Joseph, what time?
Yeah, let me pull up the slide. It's 12:30
Eastern.
12:30 Eastern at.
It's going to go from 12:30 to 1:30.
Yeah, so we're kind of doing a lot next Wednesday. Yeah, so 12:30 to 1:30 for John's webinar, and then we start at 2 p.m. To 3:15 for the servicing webinar. So we have a big Wednesday next week.
Both webinars will be recorded. So we will have that link for John's as well as for ours. We charge for ours because we have to pay Lance's.
I have to give me a Tesla, Bob. No.
We'll get a battery that works, man.
Just for everybody's reference, I drive a Toyota Tacoma, not quite a Tesla.
There you go. Very good. Delaney, good job. Thank you very much for reporting, Lance. Almost good to see you in San Diego. I guess we missed each other about 5 minutes, but I know you and Joseph have connected. So thank you for joining us today for Coleman Reporter Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you for joining us today for today's episode. If you like today's content, hit that subscribe button to subscribe to our channel and click that bell icon to get notified about our latest videos. Thank you again for joining us today and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time. Catch you next time.